Yeah. Oh, can you fill me in? Let's talk about it.
What way to start? Just trashing Beeston.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
So you didn't grow up in Beeston,
No, I grew up in Oakwood.
so people might be confused about the accent.
Why? What's my accent?
It's like a mishmash of like Leeds, Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Yeah, it's a bit of you sort of bounce between. There's
Yeah.
certain words that come out proper Geordie.
Yeah, I think so. And like when I'm down here, some of my family think, you know, they will say things like, "Oh, you sound like a Geordie," but up there, if I said that to a Geordie, they'd just be like, "How are you, man?" They'd be like, "What you on about?" No, you don't.
Yeah, my dad's from London, and he's still got an accent, but to his brothers,
Yeah.
who are proper Cockney, they say he's lost.
But then I've met my cousins today, and I can hear them, and they're just so broad Yorkshire,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't sound like that anymore.
You've said a few things today, and I thought that's like a proper Geordie word. It's like
Yeah.
it's like you miss the middle of a word out, the middle like Newcastle. You
I
miss,
don't say that though. I
No.
say Newcastle. Newcastle.
yeah, you see. But there's some words where you sort of miss the middle letter. I don't know if I'll try and remember when you do it.
Yeah, find out if I do.
I was like, ha,
Haha, there you go.
stop whatever it is you say.
And
I
you
don't
know
care
what
how
I
important
found?
it is.
I say like all the time now, but I even say it in messages. And they just say up there, it's like, can you like, you know, they'll say like, and I just say like all the time, and I don't even notice I'm doing it. And then sometimes I do notice, and I get so irritated at myself, but it doesn't sound right now unless I'm like, yeah, like.
I put like in messages if I'm trying to explain something, and I'll say, like, you know when, and I always think you don't need to put like there.
I know.
So
But,
I do it when
yeah.
I'm explaining something.
Yeah.
So Oakwood. So you mentioned obviously detox.
Yeah.
So why were you in detox?
Detoxing from alcohol. Then.
Okay.
You'll
So how did that start?
Which bit?
The alcohol bit
Um,
and the rest actually. So obviously there's a recovery element to your story, same as mine. So how did that all start?
I don't know. So I lived in Oakwood, but my mum lost her house when I was like 15. But I'd sort of started taking drugs and stuff then, a little bit.
Sort of started taking drugs a little bit.
Yeah.
So what came first?
What, drinking or drugs?
Whichever.
Drugs, I think.
And what drug was it?
Pills.
Right, okay. That was the first thing you tried.
Yeah.
Can I ask how old you are?
Now,
Yeah.
I'm 30.
So did you...
I might have tried weed every now and then. And I think I got drunk before that, but like pills were the first drug that I tried.
Do you know what put me off pills when I was young?
What?
Leah Betts.
That name rings a bell.
So she took her first pill in a nightclub and died the first time she ever tried one. And there was a
Really?
whole campaign about it, and it was the Wonderwall Oasis song. So whenever I hear
All
Wonderwall,
right.
I always think of Leah Betts. It's weird. That was when I was in high school, because I remember it being on the radio in my art class in high school. So that's between 95 and 2000.
Wow.
But the name's always stuck with me.
Yeah.
So obviously that didn't.
No.
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 So you tried a pill, and was it a good experience? Was it a bad experience?
Yeah, no, I loved it.
Right. Okay.
I was just out in Knaresborough with, I don't know, I'm pointing.
Knaresborough. That
Knaresborough,
way.
yeah, just that way. With like a friend who lived there, so we were like little emos, and we'd just get people to buy us Smirnoff Ice and stuff like from the shop and things, and sit by the bridge in Knaresborough. But then this guy had appeared, and my friend knew him but wasn't friends with him. And he had a pill, and I think he'd been battered or something, but he was he'd offered him out, and my friend was like, oh my God, no. And I was like, I'll try it. And you know, when I think about it after, somehow we ended up on the roofs of like the buildings in Knaresborough, and we're just jumping between the roofs, like the close together ones.
Yeah.
But you know, and I'm just thinking like, what?
Do you think
Why?
you would have done that without drugs? If someone suggested it?
Climbed to a roof and jumped across roofs? No,
Yeah.
probably not.
Okay.
No.
That's crazy.
I liked it though, but like, I think I was still at school because I had a Saturday job at Pizza Hut. She used to be at the bottom of Briggate.
Other pizza places are available. Carry on.
Okay. And I got in the next day, and I just remember I was taking someone a coffee, and I couldn't stop shaking. And I remember it spilt everywhere. And then I said to another waitress there, I was just like, oh, I took this last night and oh, my mouth is killing me. It was so sore. And then she was like, oh, you've gurned. That's what it is, sort of thing. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, she knows what this is. I was like, oh, do you know where I can get any more? And then she took me to the corn exchange. And that was straight away. And she took me to the corn exchange after work, met someone who was selling pills there, and then started to meet people around the corn exchange.
I see you as a proper emo.
All went downhill a little bit there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So what was that? Just we'll just take pills, or was the other stuff that came in around that time?
I think at that point, like, it was just new to me, and it was just like really happy.
Yeah. And where would you go when you took them?
I don't know because I can't really remember. But that girl that I knew at work, so I lived in Oakwood. She lived in Gipton. So they were sort of nearby. So I remember one night we just met up and we were at mine. Then my mum came in and she was completely, really, really drunk, and it was really embarrassing. So we were like, right, we'll go out. And I think we just took it and walked around. And I remember us dive bombing into bushes and stuff like that, and just But then after that, I started meeting other people and going to houses and taking it there.
Okay. Was music a part of it?
Yeah, I think so. A bit further on, because then I remember at one of these houses, and then someone gave me Ket, and I absolutely loved Ket. That was like my drug.
Yeah, me too. The first time I took a pill, I was in a nightclub in Huddersfield.
Right.
And I was with a guy called Rich, and he lived not too far away. And I took it, and the people I was with were like, make sure you keep drinking more and keep drinking more. So I was like, all right, I'm drinking more. And then I was like, I feel like I'm going to be sick. So the toilets, you got to a door, and then you open that door, and there's like a little corridor, and then there's another door. And when you open the second door, the toilets are there. Right. So it's like a corridor into the men's toilets. Opened the first door and just threw up all over the carpet, all over the walls. The bouncers knew the people I were with, so they took me into a toilet, let me be sick, and they said, we're going to have to ask you to leave. You understand, don't you? I was like, yeah. So I stood outside, and I could still hear the music. So I stood outside like, waiting for them to tell Richard to come out, but I was just stood like, oh, this is ace. And they were just laughing their heads off at me.
Right.
That was my first experience.
Cool.
Dancing outside a nightclub. So Ket, you loved Ket.
Yeah.
What was it about it?
I don't know. I think that's around the time I started taking it. But I think now I just like that whole sort of trippy feel. So my mum lost her house, and then I'm moving out, and I moved in with one of the people that I met from the Cornex. So it was like a 1-bedroom flat where there were about 15 people living in it, and none of them worked. And, you know, they just sat around and took drugs, and I thought it was amazing. And then met a guy called Steve, and then all of this, that sort of, I don't even know, like group. Then I started going to the West Indian Centre. So, raving.
Okay. So Ket and pills were the two that you did the most of throughout your...
No pills for a while, and then I sort of decided, like, I prefer... And then MD was coming about, and I've tried all sorts, but I think I just always prefer Ket. I quite liked acid as well.
So is it like the escape element? Is it the... like, because if I used to say that if I could only ever take one drug for the rest of my life, it'd be Ket. And when people ask me why... I don't know. When it's explained to me, it's like, you know, people use it as an escape from something, and I don't know what it was about it for me.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit spaced out, aren't you? And you're not totally aware of everything that's going on, and you're just quite relaxed, and it's not overbearing. Where after a while, I enjoyed like raving and stuff, but I started to dislike, you know, the rushing feeling and the gurning, you know, when it's too much and it's sort of really intense, like rushing, and I'm like, no, I prefer the trippy stumbling all over the place. Not that you realise you're stumbling, but...
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. You can look at yourself in the mirror and be like, yeah, I look cool.
Yeah.
But you don't. Did you have any health effects from ketamine?
No, not really, no.
One of the lucky ones.
Yeah. Because I know someone who was a bit younger than me, and I think we were still on like 23 or 24. And I think she'd had like 2 operations like on her bladder, and so she had like no control over her body. She completely wrecked herself. Yeah,
there was I think he was 24, a guy called Paddy, and he was in hospital. He had a colostomy bag fitted. Right. I'm not sure if it was a permanent thing, but your bladder's one of the things that doesn't repair.
No.
So once it's buggered, but we used to do it a lot, and we used to do large amounts often. Yeah. So we get stomach pains, which is worse than labour. I'm going to say it's worse than labour. I don't know what I don't know what labour feels like, but it was. There'd be times where you'd sweat,
Right.
and I'd be fetus position, bathroom floor, naked,
Like cat cramps,
sweating,
isn't it?
and just making noise. It was that painful. I couldn't not make noise.
I saw some people get really messed up, like health-wise, from MCAT as well.
Yeah, MCAT was weird. So
It was dirty.
I took all the drugs I took pretty much in the first month, because I was introduced to these people who'd been doing it for a long time. So some of my friends who I'd grown up with and stuff. And then it was like, oh, try this, come to this house, come to here and we'll do this. So like Richard, who I told you about from Huddersfield, he did things like ket acid mushrooms. So we'd do that at his house. And then this amazing guy called David, who's moved to Thailand now, he was more into like GB, MDMA, that sort of stuff. So we'd do that sort of stuff at his house. So because we'd done all the stuff in the first month, MCAT was the only one that I tried later,
Right.
because it wasn't out when I started. But the smell,
Oh, it was
like your
horrible.
skin smelling
Yeah.
like fish for like days after.
I absolutely hated it, and it was so dirty, and it made you feel dirty.
Yeah.
And I would always say that, but as soon as I had one line, I'd be fiending, want another and another and
Yeah.
another, and just on and on and on.
Yeah,
And
but it was sold as like not a poor man's Coke, but somewhere between Coke and pills. But it was ridiculously cheap.
Well, it's like that time's version of what is now Spice. Again, it was something that was legal, and it's now become,
Yeah,
yeah,
people put flyers out that sold MCAT.
yeah.
They used to fly all the cars in like the colleges and universities, said MCAT for sale. But because it said not for human consumption, he was okay to
Yeah.
sell it and buy it.
But health-wise, I don't think I did much.
No.
I always end up in hospital and stuff, just wrecked out of my head, but
So the ketamine wouldn't do something to you, but you'd do something to yourself whilst on ketamine.
yeah. Or it'd get to the point that Ket wasn't really having that much of an effect on me. Like, I think my 17th birthday, I did a 5.5 foot line. I had a full length swirly mirror, and my ex used to like sell stuff, so he'd always have absolutely loads of it. And I just did a line the length of the mirror. It was actually taller than me, the mirror.
So what happened?
Oh, I don't remember.
Did you finish the line?
Yeah, I had to like stop for a breath, and then I just carried on.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
Yeah.
me and one of my friends did one on my living room floor from one end. I mean,
Wow.
my mum and dad are probably going to see this and not know some of the stuff that we used to do, but we did one along the floor and started at one end each and then worked our way in
Wow.
to the middle. I can't
But
remember,
to me,
I
it
can't
was
remember
just-
if it was Coke or Ket that we
yeah,
did.
it was like, I'm badass. That is so impressive. Like, just loads of Ket, just give me it.
Me and my friend Matt was the same. So we'd go to house parties and then people were like, oh, you're not going to do a line that big. And we'd
Yeah.
love that. We'd just be like, yeah, watch. And then less than 60 seconds later, you pass out. Everyone else enjoys their time. You come round and everyone's like, hey, he's back. How are you feeling? You're like, yeah. You're like, do you want to go again? You're like, yeah.
Let's do it.
And then it was a bit like, you know, the sort of runt of the litter who people take the mick out of and they give them like, go get tartan paint, go. And that's what it was like. Like they were enjoying watching us ruin ourselves, but we were just getting free drugs. So we were like, yeah, of course I will.
Yeah.
And we took it to that ridiculous extreme every time.
But I remember, like, me and my ex, like, we take it all the time. Like, sort of, if he had it and I knew he was selling it, like, I'd hate that. I'd always want Ket sort of stuff. So even when I was, like, still at college and things, I'd be wanting a line in the morning, like, having a
Yeah.
shot or something before going to college.
Wanting or needing, eventually. Was it always wanting?
I don't know. It was weird because it gets in your head, doesn't it? And you're sort of, like, feeling, if I know it's there,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, well, I can't have it.
I was with a girl, and when I used to sell Coke, we'd always have it. So we'd be in bed, and she'd get up to have a line, and then get back into bed, and then I'd be like, well, she's had more than me now, so I'd get up and have a line,
Yeah.
and then get back into bed, and then just lay there like, why did I just have a line? Absolutely ridiculous. Like, what was I expecting was going to happen? But it was that sort of, I know it's there, so
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. And the routine of it. So when I came home from prison the second time, I couldn't get a shower at home because before I went to prison, I'd put a gram of Coke out and I'd do it into 2 lines. And I promise you, every single time I got a shower, I did this. The same thought process, the same result, every single time. I'll just do one now, and then I've got another one waiting for me when I get out of the shower.
Right.
So I'll do a 1/2 gram line. I'll go to the shower. I'll turn the water on. I'll take my clothes off. I'll put a towel around me. Walk back into the bedroom. Have the other line, and then say in my head I'll just be like, why am I rationing myself? I'll just put some more out after. But then the next time I get in the shower, I'll do the same. I'll just have half. Get into the bathroom. Have the same.
And then go back. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
At no point did I say, well, I know I'm going to have both anyway, so I'll just have them both now. I'd still go to the bathroom with the intention of not having the other one, and then turn around before I've even got wet and go back and have it.
I think you
Same
just do
thought
things,
process.
wouldn't you? And you'd enjoy doing like, oh, I'll have a line in the bath, or I'll do whatever. And or once I just went and wrapped up a line of coke in the markets. But as soon as I came out, met someone like, oh, we're going to the all you can eat, and I just had a huge line of coke, and I was like, oh, god damn it! I was like, I can't even eat.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed it as well. Like even now when I've seen people like the other week, I was went out and they're just writing up lines of coke, and I think like I'm so not bothered by alcohol now, and I don't know if it's because I know how disastrous it is for me, but like I've been around that a lot more. But I know it was coke, and I wasn't feeling like, oh, I want to have it, but seeing the white lines,
Yeah.
I sort of find that a bit difficult. And I used to love it, you know, the process of where you nearly get into the dealer and then you get it, and then finding somewhere that you can line up and like, oh, going to shop
Yeah.
toilets. It's like
This is what I mean.
yeah.
It's the routine. It's the whole. You're doing something that's illegal, so it's all a bit. It's all
I'd have a
bit
little like
naughty.
line up mirror with me, and I do it on the back of the bus
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah. For me, I used.
in the back
it
of a
wasn't really.
police van once.
Yeah. Oh God. It wasn't really like a reward thing. It was I'm about to do this, so I'm going to have a line. I need to go to the shop. I'll just have a line before I go. I need to get in the shower. I'll just have a line before I get in. And that's what I mean. I couldn't get a shower at home because the first couple of times I went to get a shower, I didn't know it was coke, but I knew something was missing. And I was just like, something don't feel right. And then when I realised I'm missing having a line of coke.
Yeah, that routine of what you do.
And I just sort of, I went to the girl who I was with at the time, and I used to get showered at hers and stuff,
All right,
just to
okay.
get out of that. And
Routine in your own
yeah,
house.
like pubs. I'll go into pubs now because I spent a lot of time on home visits going into pubs and drinking pop because I wanted that to be more normal than drinking beer and sniffing in toilets. The toilets for a while were a bit like, oh, I've been in here a few times, and it was sort of like a weird reminiscing type thing. But I've never missed it to the point where I've thought I'll try it again.
Yeah.
Not once, and it's just over 7 years now, and I've never thought. Like sometimes people say something about drinking, and there might be like half a second where I'm like, I probably could have a drink, but I'm not gonna. I'd rather not find out if I can have a drink or not.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, I had that when I went out the other week. Like everyone, the more drunk they get in, I think some people were taking MD then and stuff, and they're just like, I don't know, they just find it really bizarre that I'm out, like properly out and not drinking or anything. They're
I don't
like,
think I could do it.
no.
Out as in like in a club,
Yeah, I was out till like 2:30.
dancing.
No, we're not allowed to dance now, are we?
Okay.
But
so I can
I
be
didn't
out
get
in
home till 3
company.
a.m.
I could be out in company, and they can be drinking, no
Mm-hmm.
problem. I couldn't. I don't. Even if it was allowed to, I don't think I could dance. It was drugs that made me dance.
No,
wouldn't
but I
have the
can now. Like
confidence
I
to make me
like
dance.
going out and doing that, and half the time, people aren't really looking at you, and they probably just assume you've had a drink anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't actually mind it. But everyone kept saying that, like, oh, but do you not think you could drink now and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And I remember when I first moved to Durham and I was on my driving lessons and I was talking to him, and my driving instructor sort of said like, oh, but I think you'd be absolutely fine now the way you're talking now, you sound this, blah, blah, blah. So there's an organisation called Carbeck in Leeds, and I used to be with them. So I remember when I got home, I just had to ring my old like housing worker and just be like, he's just said this, like, I know that, like, I probably can't. And she was like, no, Mia, do you not remember, like, this would happen? I just needed some clarifications.
Yeah.
But now when people say it, I'm sort of like, I was like, I even used just smoking, like, I only started in March, and I'm straight about smoking again, like, if that's what I'm like, just smoking.
So
And also you get a sense
twice
of...
then you said smoking without the K.
Smoking.
Smoking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Smoking. Yeah, but then if I pronounce the words, everyone's like,
Who do
okay,
you
it sounds
think you
very
are, you
posh.
snob?
Yeah. But yeah.
So have you ever been tempted to do anything again? Either
Not
drugs
really.
or drinking or...
No.
Does
Because people had asked me now, that's what I was saying, and like, I don't know, I think I'm quite proud of like the years of recovery I've got now, and I wouldn't want to, I just sort of, I never get complacent.
How far are you in now?
6 years sober.
Smashing it.
Yes.
So that wasn't long ago either, was it? When's your anniversary?
Oh, it was 6 years, just June, just gone.
Yeah, I think.
If I'm counting it technically, so I'd stopped taking Ket before I stopped drinking.
Yeah.
And then I did my detox, start my access course, and then towards the end, that's the guy that I was with had cheated on me. And I did what a lot of people do in NA, but the other way around. I convinced myself, like, oh my God, I cannot drink. I won't get to uni if I drink, blah, blah, blah. But I'm in loads of pain. I could take some Ket this evening. And then it was like, oh, it's the weekend, I'll take some Ket.
Yeah.
And literally very quickly it was back to... And it was good because it reminded me a little bit. So it wasn't like a total relapse, but it was a little...
So how long ago was that?
5 years.
So you'd done a year of full recovery?
Pretty much. And I think it was just the last couple of months of when I was in Leeds. And I was back to trying to borrow money off people and get more Ket and stuff like that. So I do class it 6 years sober because that's what I had to detox from. And people in NA in the North East have pulled that apart quite a bit. But I'm just thinking it's my recovery. I will count it however I wanted.
Yeah,
I had
of course,
like alcohol ended me up in prison. You know, like alcohol had very different effects to me as Ket did a little bit. So yeah, like 5 years clean and 6 years
So let me ask
sober.
you about the Ket. So you justified taking Ket by saying, I'm in pain, that's why I'm going to use it.
Yeah, and I think at that point something had happened, and I didn't know at that point how to deal with it.
And was it
without
physical
anything.
pain or emotional pain?
It was emotional pain.
Okay, so
From this breakdown in this relationship, and I was like, I can't drink. That will be too detrimental. I won't get to uni. I'll start getting drunk all the time. I can handle Ket though. Ket's fine. You know, that's what I told myself.
How quickly was it not for pain, for enjoyment?
Probably a week.
Right, okay.
So I remember I took it. I got it this one evening, and a couple of days later it was the weekend, and then I was like, oh, it's the weekend. I'll get some more Ket, and then the next week I was just back to taking it all the time until I moved to Durham.
It's crazy how our minds work. I tried getting
I've
some
seen a
brought
lot of
into
people-
prison.
You
And
are?
I tried getting some brought into prison, and the idea was, it was my 30th birthday. I was going to miss my 30th, so I'll get some brought in. Because the first sort of, my recovery started the day I went to prison, but it wasn't like I had a life-changing moment by going to prison. I was still very much trying to get drugs there. Because you don't really get coke or Ket in prisons, and I don't smoke, that's why I never tried anything while I was there.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get brought in, and it was just 30th birthday, I'll get some brought in. And then it changed very quickly to, well, if we get some Ket brought in, we might as well get some spice brought in as well. And then if we sell the spice, that'll pay for the next lot of Ket. It's like, what next lot of Ket? This is meant to be a one-off for your birthday.
Yeah.
Why are we thinking about the next lot now?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why I was sort of asking about how quickly that changed, because...
We did, but it was being sly as well, because that guy that I was with at the time, who was very on and off, but I think he'd got a gist that I did, because I remember I had this bathroom cupboard, and I had a CD case in there, and I was like sneaking in lines every time I went to the bathroom, so it was very quickly back to how it used to be, sort of thing, so...
Okay. Have you heard of DMT?
Yes. Can't think what it is, though.
So yeah, so DMT it's now a man-made thing, but it came from, I can't remember the name of it. It's no, it's gone. But it's something that comes out of this particular frog, and it's meant to be. So it's a thing that you'd probably only do once every so many years, or it's not like a daily type drug. So DMT is a chemical that's in your brain, and when you are dying, or if as you're about to die, that chemical releases, and it's like a dream type state. So this is sort of like how to sort of open up that bit of your brain to see what that's like. And it's the only thing that I've heard of that's made me think, do you know what, I really want to try that. So I've been looking into it a lot. I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I've been looking into it, and
Is it a drug?
so I've joined a group, and I was talking about it, and they were saying it's not a drug, it's a medicine. So it gives you this sort of life-altering experience.
Right.
And apparently if you think about things you want to achieve or things that are bringing you down, it gives you some sort of like guidance around those things.
Right.
So I went into this group thinking, I might want to try this. And then speaking to people in the group, even though they were saying positive things to me to make me want to try it, it had the opposite effect. So there were some people in there that
Okay.
did become addicted to it. There were people in there that had bad experiences, and I'd only ever heard positive things about it. And then I started to hear all these other bits. And it was probably a month ago. So what I was trying to do is justify. Are you doing this?
I was just checking. I don't know if that's right or
Has
not.
it dropped? Lift it up, and then push it back a little bit. Yeah, that's it. So
Okay.
if you push it back and then tighten this bit here, where your index finger is up a bit,
There.
yeah, that one. So tighten that one while it's pointing up.
All right.
There you go. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, perfect. So what I was trying to say is, can I still have a little year-line recovery done every year and try DMT?
So I think that's interesting, but just the reasons you gave were, what did you say? Like, if you wanted to get goals and
clarity
ideas,
on something, or yeah.
do you really need to be taking a drug or mind-altering substances, if that trying to sound,
Yeah.
any, to get that? Because then after that, if it gets to a next thing, would you then maybe end up thinking, oh, I need to take DMT to sort of be able to
But
make
this
these
is it.
decisions or feel better? It's
So if you're unsure of a business idea because you don't know the full aspect of the business you're going into, and you speak to somebody who's further on than you, and then they give you advice, is that different to taking a substance which will give you everything you need to know? This is how it's been described to me.
Right.
So if we think in a
I don't think a drug is going to have the answers for you.
well, this is the thing. It apparently has. So we think as a human on Earth. So this drug is about different dimensions. It's about opening up to other. This is how it was sold to me.
Okay.
You know, it will give you answers to questions that you can't answer through thinking as a human. So we're very sort of contained on. We know this is real because we can feel it. You know, everything around us, we know we breathe air in, we know we need to drink water, we know what our body's made of and how it works and all the rest. But then there's certain things in life that we can't explain. And this help, because there's the whole we only use a percentage of our brain thing. So that this is how it was sold to me. But like I say, speaking to people who have experienced it and who thought they were saying the right things to me to get me to use it,
Right.
had the opposite
There's
effect.
actually, yeah. I don't know that much about it, so I won't
Yeah.
want to comment
Yeah.
massively.
But
A little bit though, go see a fortune teller then.
yeah, I want
I
a
don't-
fortune teller to come on, because I'm not sure if I believe what they say. I've never seen one, but it'd be good to have one to come on to talk to them about what that's like for them. You know, if you can channel into spirits, what happens at 3:00 in the morning when you're trying to sleep? Is the people trying to talk to you? Is the times where can you meditate? Can you make it stop? Can you make it start?
Yeah.
Is there an on-off button? And then to do some sort of reading or whatever with me, and then continue the interview afterwards and see how differently I feel. Do you know what I mean?
I feel like I'm just quite dubious about that. I think I'd see it as a drug.
Yeah.
And then the next major thing in your life, you'd be like, oh, I can't make this decision. I'm not seeing the whole
I need to
picture.
take drugs
Like,
again. Yeah.
you are a human. This is real life. A lot of things we don't know. And a
Yeah.
lot of things are uncertain. Look, coronavirus, nobody really saw that coming.
Yeah.
We don't know how it's going to play out. And I don't know.
And that is exactly my point. That's why
I don't
I'm not
think
going
I'd
to do
take-
it, because
yeah.
for me it'd be, all right, so let's say, for example, I take DMT and then my career progresses because I had some sort of visualization of something that made me think, oh, wow, this is what I need to do. So I do that, and then it'll be,
You become a bit dependent on
I
it.
wonder if I need to pass my driving test. Oh, I wonder if I should get Cadbury's dairy milk, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how my head will go. Like every decision.
And then you probably lose faith in your own judgment and your
Yeah.
own opinions and think, oh, I cannot make this decision
Yeah.
without the help of this.
It was the link to, so like acid, ketamine.
I was
that
going to
sort
say,
of
like, a lot of
experience.
people would take acid to get these out-of-world experiences and things like that, but you see them, they're just off the head.
Yeah.
And then I remember someone who used to take loads of it and saw him a while later and just just generally, I don't know if they were on anything then, but they just weren't with it. It just has such an impact on, I don't know, your mental state after a while. Yeah.
Did you have proper out-of-body experiences? Like when you that ridiculous line of cat, can you remember what was going on in your head?
No, I literally cannot remember anything about that. But I think different times. There was a guy when we were all still going to the West Indian Centre who was quite a dealer, and he'd get like Colombian Coke sent over in eggshells and things like that. Like strongest Coke I've ever had. It was amazing. Wow. But once I think we'd all took Ket, and we were in a huge room, and so there was a guy called Butters. And the more I've thought about it now, since then, the people who were giving us drugs, all these young girls around the Corn Exchange, it was very messed up, and they'd always try stuff with people when they're off the head and things like that. It was, not right, really. But I think he was in the room, and I vaguely remember this. So we all went into a Ket hall, and it was like something out of space, and I could sort of see where everybody was in this like circle thing. And this guy Butters, apparently he'd said after like he was trying to get into my Ket hall or something. It was really weird. But then in mine, I'd seen someone like the riders out of Lord of the Rings, but with red eyes. And when he'd said he was trying to get in, I think I'd envisioned this person and it was someone really scary to me, and I didn't like it. And it was that was a very weird situation. It was a bit like a solar system sort of thing in this Ket thing that I was seeing. And the first time that I ever took a pill, I'd gone back to this house in Knaresborough, and I remember hallucinating and seeing a goldfish with huge lips on the wall. Not exactly the same sort of thing. That were just hallucinating. But
so Ket for me was mainly there'd be nothing here. So if I'd done Ket now to the point where we used to do it, the whole room would just be red. It was always red, but it wouldn't be a room. It would just be an open space. So all you can see is red. Everything's just red,
right.
And you're not a body. You're just a thought. So I'd be getting pulled around the room, and I'd feel myself literally. I don't know if I used to do this while I was sat, but I'd be pulled around this big open space, and it was sort of like I don't exist. I just imagine that all these things are here, and now Ket's took them all away, and this is what life actually is, not in like a deathly sort of way. And then as you start to come round, things would start to pop back into place. Like if there was a TV on, that would probably be the first thing because there's noise. Or if somebody was talking, they'd appear, and then all the little things. And then the last thing would pop back into place. It might be something on the wall or something. As soon as that pops back in, you're just back to normal. Yeah. And that was most of them. But I had two really weird experiences. One where I crawled over a cat and had a zoomed in staring competition with a centipede. Like my eyes zoomed right in so we were nose to nose. The house I was in didn't even have a cat. And then the other time was Ket and acid, and I went to this house, and the people there were trying to be nice and trying to keep me there because I was wrecked. But I was sat with a table in front of me. I was sat on the floor doing half a sit-up. So I was laid on the floor, but my shoulders and most of my back was off the floor. So I'm sat up and I'm staring, and my friend sat opposite me. There's a glass of water on the table. There's a patio door behind him. The sun shines through, hits the glass of water, and I'm sat there thinking, these have put us in this position because when the sun gets to a certain height, it hits the glass and it opens up this other dimension, like Stargate.
Right.
So I'm saying, I know what you're all up to, I need to leave. They're saying, you're a bit wrecked, you need to stay. And I was physically moving people out of the way because they were trying to keep me in the house.
That's
because
bizarre.
I was 100% convinced that it was going to open up this other world.
Wow.
While we had to be sat in this position at this particular time when the sun hit this certain angle, which would hit that water, and it'd just open up this thing.
Oh my God.
That was the scariest one because it was real. That's what was happening.
So I don't remember a lot. I think mine was just, just constant blackouts. But there was that one with the Ket hall, and then there was another one. See, these were really early on when I started taking stuff a lot. And there was this film that was about then. It was like The Secret Craft or Secret Croft or something. I can't remember. It was a bit creepy. But we'd all took some Ket or something, and then my dad had took me to Costco. I'd got like a multi-pack of like the Blackcurrant Oasis. So this, so I think we took it, and then my ex had put like this film back on again. They're on this graveyard and they're doing whatever. And then the Oasis had fallen over, and for some reason, like I got that. I felt like I was in the film, and the Oasis on the floor was blood. And and that was really weird. I felt like I was in this film, and it was really scary.
Yeah.
yeah, that was just...
Films are weird. I had a few where I felt like I knew the actors, and I was sat there with a big grin on my face, like, I'm so proud of how well he's doing. Like,
Wow.
absolutely no clue who they are or what have you, just like extras. Like,
Yeah.
oh, look at, he's doing really well. So, if it was that good, if drugs were that good, why did you stop? Don't let this be the question that makes you go back. Why did I stop, actually?
Yeah, why did
Why
I?
did I? Tell you what, let's make a phone call.
Yeah. Even my friend still takes care, like, we could get some... I find that bizarre, actually. She's a nurse, and she's now been with someone for, like, a couple of years that I used to know from, like, Hyde Park and stuff like that, and I used to know he used to take a lot of care. And I think she does, and once she rang me, like, during lockdown or something and was sort of off it and then didn't really want to talk, she was like, oh, I don't want to trigger you. And, you know, when you're a bit like... You calling me on Kit 90 miles away when I'm like 5 years in is not going to trigger me, bless you, but it's, don't worry. But I just find it mental. And so I was talking to her yesterday and she sort of she's talked about how she is addicted to it and sometimes she likes getting it and they enable each other and it's quite bad. But she always holds down a job, she's still gone to work. And I'm sort of thinking like, okay, I know you don't drink and you don't really like drinking, and some people do prefer taking Kit or taking drugs and enjoying it over having a drink, but I'm sort of thinking the fact that you're telling me it is an issue and you're addicted to it and you think about it a lot of times. And then she did the whole line like, oh, it'll be totally different when we have a kid. No, and you sat there like, exactly, that's what I said. And I was like, oh, the amount of people that I've heard like, oh, I'm going to rehab for my kids, I'm going for my partner, it never works, you have to do it for you. And she was like, oh, well, it just won't be the same, I'm not like that. So I just was like, okay. You know when you're just like, yeah, not good.
So what did your recovery look like? So you decide all of a sudden, I want to stop, I need to stop, whichever it was. What do you do?
So I was in a house, I'd gone back to Carbeck. So they put me in this house in Beeston. Guys are smoking that. So I think I was just drinking a lot and I was taking drugs, and I think it was just, they were together. I mean, my parents sent me to rehab when I was 19, but at 19 I was around all these people who did that, so really my dad just wasted a lot of money, basically, because to me that would never have worked anyway, because I didn't see there was any problem actually. I don't know, I think I had literally hit a point, I was in this shithole of a flat, it was horrible, I've drinking all day or any time I could and getting drugs if I could, but drinking was obviously cheaper. I've been in court for whatever the last thing was. I was very lucky not to go to prison. But I remember him sort of saying like, if you turn up here again, you'll be going through the other door, literally. And I think I was just so depressed. Like, I was self-harming all the time. I was sort of very suicidal. There were times when I just didn't have the balls to do it, but I'd wanted to try and kill myself. And I was literally at this point where I was going to end up killing myself, or was going to fuck up again and then end up in prison. And it's sort of, I think I literally just hit this like, I've had enough of this sort of thing. So
wow.
Yeah. So I spoke to my housing worker and she got me in touch with Leeds Addiction Unit. I think they planned a detox day, and then this guy that I just got with then, we got really drunk one night. 'Cause then you think like, oh, I can just drink until have this detox day, and then he'd sent his ex a message or something, so I'd use that as an excuse, which I can see it was now. Like, oh my God, I can't possibly do a detox now, I've dealt with that, so I changed it. And then it got moved, but then I did the detox and then haven't drank since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it tough?
I think so.
Can't remember.
I can a bit. I think I was really ill a little bit, and then this guy that I was with, they had to give me Librium because I did it at home. And then I had to walk from Beeston to Leeds LAU every day and back. And then I remember one time they gave me this injection and I nearly passed out from it, and I'm not sure what it was. I think it is something to get like fluids back into or something like that. But I think they thought I was on something because it made me really lightheaded, and then I had to get like a taxi back. But I remember after a couple of days I got my appetite back, and I think I'd started eating, then I started accessing services, and then again it was that routine, it was breaking the routine because I was on tag at the time, so I started engaging with, you know when they used to be at the bottom of town?
Yeah.
So there was the alcohol services and then drug services right next door, like multiple choice and that.
Yeah.
So I started just going there during the day and things like that, and then I had to be home by 7, and it sort of changed that routine. So even I just remember I got into Hollyoaks and I'd come in, make dinner, watch that, and it was changing that routine. So I was out during the day.
Got into Hollyoaks?
Yes.
As an
at the time.
actress?
No, like watching it.
Oh, I'd got into watch it. All
Got-
right, okay.
yeah. No.
All right, okay.
No, I mean, it's horrendous now. I can't watch it, but it was just one of those. And I think then the first few weeks, it was like a honeymoon period. It was amazing. And you're just like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Yeah, that was it. And then they offered me my old flat, like back in Chapeltown, which was sort of nearer my side of Leeds where I grew up. So it all sort of started just coming together.
So if you're taking drugs at such a young age, what was your education like from leaving school?
So I didn't do very well at school. I went to a school near Harewood. So a lot of the girls there like got into A levels and went to Cambridge and stuff like that. And I'd started taking drugs before I'd finished, so it was just I didn't do too great.
And did you have a plan for when you left?
Well, I'd moved out, so I got into Notre Dame.
Okay.
But I was living in this house just around the corner, and it was actually, I think I'd just be up all night taking drugs and then trying to go to college, and I think I lasted like less than a year there. Yeah, and I think I just kept trying college. So I was at Park Lane. I tried different things. And then I think it was getting really bad, or I had some debt or something. So like I was doing this photography course, and then I think when everyone went out, I'd nicked some money or something. Then I got caught, and it was mental. Now I think about it, because the staff at Park Lane had took me into this office, and they made me basically almost stripped down so they could check I didn't have the money on me. Which, you know, now I think like that is really inappropriate. Like you wouldn't do that, but I think I was off my head, so I barely remembered. So yeah, then college never happened until I did my detox and then did an access course.
I'm asking because obviously you've been back to university.
Yeah.
So
I went to university.
Yeah,
I'd never been.
So what made you want to go to uni?
I think just before like my detox and stuff, so I'd always get something like stop binge drinking courses and things like that, you know, from court. I think in all fairness, like Crown Court I found better than magistrates, because magistrates remanded me, where Crown Court they were trying to get me to do everything they could before they would have to send me to prison.
Okay. So
In a
what
way.
were you getting into trouble for?
Mainly shoplifting
Okay.
and a couple of burglaries.
Right.
Like
And this is all to pay for drink or drugs?
No, it's just when I was drunk.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so I think I was Harry Houdini, and I go in the same shops over and
Because
over
everyone
again.
knows that you're more stealth when you're drunk.
Sometimes I was really good, and then sometimes I wasn't. So it happened like when I was living in Beeson, like the Tesco and stuff, they became aware of me. And then when I was in Oakwood, the shops around there became, because I was going back to the same ones and stealing from them. So that was it. I got remanded for stealing a bottle of wine on bail, and that was it. And I was put in with this lass from Seacroft who stabbed a boyfriend, and I was like, I stole a bottle of wine, and I'm
Do
here.
you know, this is the problem with women's prisons.
It's bizarre.
With men's prisons, we have different categories for different crimes.
Mm-hmm.
But because there's not enough women's prisons to be able to do that,
Yeah,
you all just go in the same prison. So perfect example.
yeah.
Shoplifting and murder or attempted murder or
Yeah,
whatever.
and as soon as I went in, it would just straight. She was like, my cellmate. We've been like cellmates for 2.5 years. She only left this morning. Her bed isn't even cold, and they put you in here. And that was the start of it. And she was like, "What are you in for?" And I was like, "Oh my God," because I was sober at that point, and I was like, "How have I ended up here? This is just
Yeah.
mental." But yeah. So they'd always send me on like courses. Like I remember one of them sort of saying, "I don't want to send you on community service," because it was a period where I was doing okay. Because he was like, "You might be around the sort of people you're trying to get away with, and you might end up like that, so I'll put you on probation again and whatever." So I started going to Together for Women, and I think I'd done a course or something on domestic abuse, I think. And then the woman running it had just said, "Oh, I did criminology at uni," and then suddenly it was like, I've never ever had any interest in going to uni, and it was like, "Oh, I want to work in that. Right, I want to go to uni and do criminology."
So did you have somebody who
that was
sort
that
of
bit.
saw your interest in it and then coached you into it? Or
No,
was it
just
just you
this
saying-
woman running this group, and she mentioned, "Oh, I did criminology at uni." I'd never heard of criminology, and I did my detox literally in June, and I started my access course in September.
Wow.
So it was just during that, and
And how long was the course for?
a year or 10 months ish.
And you've just finished that?
No, that was the access course to get into uni.
Oh, okay. Right.
So then my uni degree was
Can
3
tell
years.
I've never been to uni.
Yeah.
I didn't even go to college.
Because I didn't have A levels, so it's the equivalent for mature students. Is A levels, so it's very intense. It's 10 months, and you can use it to get into uni. So I got that and then went to uni, which would have been 3 years, and I got ill in my second year, so it became 4 years.
Right.
And now I'm doing a 2-year master's in social work.
So you've done your 4 years criminology,
Yeah.
and is that going to lead to work, or is that led to you wanting to do the master's bit?
Yeah, it's led to me being able to do the master's.
And then what's the plan after the master's?
I'll be a qualified social worker.
And the criminology is part of that.
No.
So
So
I'm not going to say it was a
criminology-
waste of 4 years, but it's not really.
No, because I think I'd started, I wanted to get into domestic abuse, and then given this like last relationship, and I've like realised no, I think it'd be way too close to home for me, and I just don't particularly want to work in it. But as I was doing more things during my degree, I got very interested in like the sex industry and crime in the sex industry and different aspects of it. But coming towards the end, you're sort of like very limited to what jobs you have in criminology, or what I'd be able to do with a criminal record. So probation, police and prison work, pretty much I can't do any of them. But I was working in like volunteering in court for like all through my degree. And my manager at the time, she used to be a social worker, and she sort of said, why don't you look into it? Because like child protection could sort of be linked to maybe like criminology in a way. And basically it's, I don't know, I felt like I'm just going to end up being a support worker at a charity, and then it would have felt like my degree was a waste. And at the end of the day, you're doing all this to work and earn a decent amount as well. Because that's why you go to work, isn't it? You want to earn some money. So, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to try and be a social worker.
And so where's that come from? Why do you want to be a social worker? Is this something that's happened, or?
No, I think everything I had before uni is what led me to criminology.
Okay.
And I was very interested in that. And I think everything, I've literally gone from offending myself to doing criminology.
Yeah.
And then it was just this woman. And so the time I was working in court, we were supporting the family members and partners of people getting sent to prison. So working that side of it, and it was sort of social work in itself, and other volunteering stuff I was doing, where once I worked with like a sex offender who we were trying to rehabilitate, and then in a homeless hostel, and it is all that sort of social work anyway. But rather than just leaving and getting a support worker job, she'd said, why don't you look at social work? And then I thought it's an actual career, you'll have a nice starting salary and you go from there. And it was sort of what I was doing volunteering wise anyway.
And are you thinking of staying in Newcastle or coming back to Leeds?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Where's your master's going to be? Is that going to be in Newcastle?
I'm doing my master's now.
Yeah, but where's that?
I'm in Durham.
Oh, of course you're in Durham, yeah.
So I did my degree at Durham and I'm doing my master's at Durham. So I've just finished my first year and we start second year in September.
Okay. Were you looking at buying a house?
Yes.
Did that happen?
Yes.
So you've got a little tie to Durham?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's complicated with my family.
Right, okay.
It's
we won't.
in that, yeah.
Yeah, we won't go into that then.
But yeah, I've got that. But at the minute, I don't feel like I have a huge amount of ties to it.
Yeah.
This is like my stepmom's, but I don't know what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you come back to Leeds, I can introduce you to so many people for the things that you're wanting to do.
Yeah. I mean, my friend was saying today, because like obviously with COVID and everything and unemployment's rising and stuff, and I was saying like, don't even know where we're going to be in a year, like are there going to be jobs and stuff? But he was saying that like as unemployment rises, domestic abuse might rise, like crime will rise. He were like, there's going to be so much more need for social work.
It already is. There'll never be no social workers. I think we just need to be, because I feel like I class myself as either a social worker or a youth worker.
Yeah.
Around that sort of bracket. I think we just need to be creative with how we deliver. So the delivery process is going to be different. We're not going to be able to do groups. We're not going to be able to do stuff like that for the foreseeable future. But that doesn't mean that the stuff's not happening anymore. People still need that support. So it's about how do we...
But there's so many aspects which I didn't even realise. So I did like my placement in hospital discharges this year. I didn't even think... I feel like it's a little bit like the police. People hate social workers. But if you don't do the right job on a child... And it's always children, isn't it? But if something bad happens, then everyone's damning them really a little bit. It's like the police, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
A little bit. But, working with elderly people this year in hospitals. And I wouldn't have even thought of social work in hospitals. And I know some people on my course who you can become an AMP social worker, so that's mental health. You've got to pay for more training, but then you're in the NHS band sort of thing. So it's loads of jobs. Oh, that's what I've been told.
What about working in a prison?
I would love to do that.
So
But again-
I've found some restrictions, obviously, with me being to prison.
In my degree, I never once got on, so they did an
Of
inside
course,
out
yeah, you
program
wanted to do- yeah.
where we were the outside students, they were the inside students, and you go in. First 2 years, they tried to get me into Durham. That didn't work. So my last year, the tutors knew, and like they know, obviously you've got to declare all your convictions. They know that I was in recovery or whatever. The woman running it, she was just like, I think it would just be so even more beneficial for you to be able to go in and stuff like that. So she tried to get me in Lower Newton, and they wouldn't even accept me in there. They just kept declining my vetting for Durham. But then I went on a prison visit through the uni, and the governor was there, and when they're talking, like, I'd sort of asked, but not obviously said it was for me. That whole like, oh, we're definitely all about rehabilitation. We do this and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, I've been trying to get in and do one of the programs in there for 2 years, and you're not accepting me. And this was coming through Durham Uni. So yeah, I didn't even get into Lower Newton.
Yeah, I've had the same. There's a prison up your way that paid me to take a couple of people in and run a 1 week spoken word course.
Right.
And it went that well, they've paid me more money to do 2 weeks. So it was meant to happen now, but we've had lockdown. So
Right.
when lockdown's over and visits can happen again, I'm going to spend 2 weeks in a prison further north than what we are now in Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
Armley Prison, which I can walk to from my house. I can't go in as a visitor, as a guest. I can't go in there for free. I can't volunteer my time and go into that prison because of the rules.
See, I don't. Yeah, and I always wondered. I didn't know if it's because I've got burglary on there, and out of all these years, I've got one drug offence. So I don't know if it's the burglary or the drug offence.
It's anything.
And it's really frustrating. But then I'd hear people in NA like where they've got firearms offences and attempted murder and stuff like that, and they can go in and do a main share in prison, and yet.
If you
when
go
I'm in
there
recovery and
NA
through
banner,
Durham Uni,
yeah.
and I'm trying to go in with other students, with lecturers, and it's like, no, you're not coming
And
in.
this is the crazy thing. So you're there through a university, which is a registered body. You have tutors, you have classmates, you have a lot of people who can
And it's a very
vouch
good
for you.
unis.
Yeah, they can give you a reference. NA, all you need to join is the desire to stop using drugs. Who decides who's ready to go into a prison? And that's the only reason they can go in is because they're part of NA. Well, all right, I go to NA meetings, so can I come in and...
I found it really disheartening as well, and like, because the Inside Out programme was in your final year, and it's all you'd hear about through your degree, and everybody loved it, and it was like apparently like the best part of the degree, and I couldn't do it. So
You mentioned a little bit earlier about reforming or a sex offender trying to reform.
yeah.
Do you think a sex offender can reform? Are you allowed to talk about this?
I don't know. If I'm basing it on the person that we worked with, no.
Okay.
Because he ended up getting recalled and is back in prison and still being watched by...
For me, it depends on the charge. I think anything to do with children. So I watched a program called The Paedophile Next Door, and
I remember that.
the guy was so brave because he didn't blur his face or
Yeah.
change his voice, and he sat there looking at a camera saying, I'm a paedophile, but I've never acted on any of these urges, and I just want people to know that the feelings is not a choice. Some people are attracted to chubby people, some people are attracted to fitness, like healthy bodies, like six packs and muscles, and some people are attracted to tall people, short people, black, Asian, whatever it is.
Beards.
Beards. Yes, exactly. So this is an attraction, and unfortunately I'm attracted to children.
Yeah.
I just want to say this is what he said. If anyone cuts that bit of video of me saying
That would sound quite
I'm
bad.
attracted to children. So he's saying that he's attracted to children, but he knows it's wrong, so he's never done anything about it, whereas other people do.
Yeah.
And after hearing him, I had sympathy for him, but it didn't really change my feelings towards child sex offenders because they've chose to do something that they know is wrong. And after hearing him, can you change who you're attracted to? Is that possible? You could give somebody else a chance. If you always go for a certain type of person,
Well, I was going to say,
and they turn out to be dicks every time.
Yeah.
You'd think, do you know what, I'm going to try somebody else. But that's more, I'm going to change the personality I go for.
Yeah.
Can you be physically attracted
Well, I don't
to
know,
somebody?
because like all through your life, what you find attractive changes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes. I remember watching that, and that's when I'd wondered about it as well, because I looked at it as a psychological disorder. Because under DSM-5, it's classed as a psychological disorder.
So does that say it can be treated?
I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know, because then I think because I'm looking at Watkins on the t-shirt, like Ian Watkins, what he did was perverse and
Can I just
disgusting.
say that's Callum Watkins, who's
Yeah.
never been done for anything to do with children?
No, it just made me think of that, and I think
Tough one, isn't it?
this is why, like, so that I'd seen, obviously, like, when I was working in court, a lot of sex offences come up and things like that, and I'd see a couple of cases from the vigilante groups, and I know a lot of people think, yes, they're brilliant what they do,
Yeah.
but that's what I think they are. I think the vigilante groups, and I sometimes think, I've always thought, what if it's somebody who has never acted on that, has those feelings, is trying to repress them, and I'd think, is that very different from someone who's got an addiction and eventually always putting it in front of them? Is that going to entice them in?
Yeah.
Because I'd seen somebody, but then I think there's different things where you know what's right and wrong. Like the mayor of Peterlee, he was in court for grooming a teenage boy, and it's sort of like he would know that is not okay. But then there was a lad who was like 19. It's the only time I think I've worked with someone who's up for a sex offence, and I did feel quite sorry for him a little bit. And it gave and these vigilante people turned up, and that was bizarre because there was a huge age gap between this man and this woman. And they were sat in the public gallery, and they gave like a backdrop to this guy's story. He's never offended before. Sort of spoke about his life, his childhood, how that was really bad and stuff like that. And these vigilante groups in the public, I've got to stop calling them that. Guardians of the North, I think they're called, or the Dark Justice, or whatever it is.
Okay.
They were sat in the public gallery, and they sort of just kept like, oh my God, no, he needs to go to prison, he needs to do this. And I think and again, this judge had sort of said like, and now he'd moved up north for somebody he'd met that had brought him down. I think he thought he was talking to a 15 or 16-year-old. There wasn't that many years between him. And I don't know if that changed my perception a little bit. You know, if it was somebody who was like 10 or someone like that, it might have been a bit different. But this judge had actually says, you know what, remanding you for 3 or sending you to prison for 3 months, I think would be worse for you at this stage, because you've never offended before. You've had a very difficult life up until this point. So I'm going to put you on a 3-year sexual harm prevention order, where they're trying to rehabilitate at that point and try and help him.
I think that's better, because 3 months in prison is not long enough to do any courses, to do any work. It's just a pause in your life and then a release again.
Back to where he'd be on the streets and stuff like that. And that's what this judge had said. So he was like, I think for you, it'd be, but I don't know.
I think.
But then I feel like everyone always, and yes, it's disgusting what happens, but I think it gets, I think there's a lot more attention to this, like paedophile than to rapists, and it's sort of anyone from the age of 16 to 18, or, you know, I've known all these guys and stuff, and like that guy that I was with, and he'd be classed as a sex offender, or like, because he could get done for sexual offences, and it's sort of, but I feel like it sort of gets blindsided a little bit, and, you know, when people get sentenced for things like rape and sexual assault, it's...
That was going to be my next one, because a lot of people say rape is a spontaneous thing. So it's not like, if we're saying that paedophilia is like an attraction, that's sort of embedded in the way that you feel about a particular person.
And maybe it is, and I think it's if you're choosing to act on that.
Yeah.
Like I'd be classed as a drug addict or an alcoholic, and I think that's part of who I was. But then I'm choosing or not whether to act on this now. Maybe.
But rape is a spontaneous thing, and it's just but you have to think in your mind that that's okay.
Yeah.
To do that in the first place, because if you're walking down a Ginnell and there's a female in front of you, why would what normal person would think, oh, this is a good opportunity to have sex with somebody that doesn't want to have sex?
That's the lowest percentage of rape. You know, you saw with a stranger danger sort of thing. It's generally someone you know.
Yeah.
That, like, when rape happens and things like that, like just a random stranger down a back alley is like the rarest type of rape to be sort of found.
Right, okay.
I think.
So it's usually sort of like at your house, somebody's there.
Could be anyone, like, someone you know. Right. You know, I've heard loads of it at uni as well, you know, at house parties, and someone's smashed and a guy's raped this girl, and...
Have you seen the...
Things like that.
Cup of Tea? Oh, it's brilliant. What? So there's a video on YouTube, and it's about consent. And it breaks it down, and it makes it easy to understand. And instead of saying sex, they say cup of tea. If you ask somebody if they want a cup of tea and they say yes, then you can give them a cup of tea. if you make the tea and then they say they no longer want the tea,
I
you
think I have.
cannot make them drink the tea.
Yeah.
If they're asleep, don't give them the tea. Asleep people do not want tea, and it's just it's humorous in a way, but it just makes it really, really obvious because there's no sort of pushback on anything. Well, yeah, but she said yeah, and then she was a bit drunk, so. And it's sort of like when everyone tries to create this grey area,
Yeah.
and that's where the danger is.
I mean, did you hear about like that? It was one of the universities. I think it was Exeter or something, and got exposed this group of lads group chat and things like that where I can't vaguely remember. It was disgusting, and
What, talking about stuff that they'd done?
yeah, and how they had to like try and get the drunkest girl or do this to this girl and stuff like that, and they all got exposed, all these messages and things like that. I can't remember what it was, but
So
yeah.
that's behaviour that's encouraged.
Oh, it was horrendous. But you know, like, and then people try and class it. Oh, the rugby lads, aren't they? It's like,
Yeah.
but that sex offender training actually, it was again like you might have those attractions, and it's whether you're choosing to do that. But like a sex offender, like I think there were 4 stages that they have to get over before they actually then go and abuse a child, sort of thing.
Is it the friendship?
Trust and something like that. So there was like a guy who, we were giving this example, a single mother moves onto an estate, and he eventually works his way in as a friend, then becomes a partner, and all of this with the end goal of abusing her children and things like that. And then they start by grooming them, by giving them presents, and then instilling fear by like, you know, it's like, oh, here's a present, blah, blah, blah. And then, all right, well, if you ever tell your mum, you'll be took off you and stuff like that. And it's, they have to
there was
put a lot of work in before they can actually...
Yeah, I think it was
anything.
called Kidnapped in Plain Sight. It's a documentary on Netflix, so it's a real story about a very similar thing. He meets up with the wife of the man, and they're sleeping together, and then he starts dating the daughter and taking her away on breaks and stuff to give the couple a break. And there's all sorts of abuse in that. And he befriended the parents first, and then...
And that's what I mean, it's usually, like, it's people you know and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, like, and everyone's saying, like, if you're drunk, you can't consent to it, and I completely agree to that, and I think, like, that wasn't enforced. I think that's been enforced more lately. But, you know, I just think of all the states that I was in and how people would be and things like that. And then there was a girl I used to know, and she started messaging me, like, out of the blue, about a month ago or something, and, you know, just around, and then I realised she'd messaged me the same thing on Instagram again, so I ended up replying, but, you know, everyone at first was like, oh, it's a really nice message, because she was like, oh, it looks like you're doing great, and I'm so happy for you and things, and everyone's like, oh, that's really nice, but, like, I vaguely remember she used to always just hang around with my ex and stuff, and I was like, okay, a lot of people can say whatever to me, but I don't need her telling me I'm so happy for you, because I was always a bit unsure about what she was doing, and then she brought him up very quickly, and she was sort of saying, like, oh, he was an absolute date and all this, and I was sort of like, it was just mental, and I thought they'd slept together, so I was just like, well, why did you still keep going around? She was like, I never did that, but then she was like, but I did wake up one time, we took Kate and got weed, got stoned, and I'd woke up and he'd undressed me and was trying to have sex with me and stuff like that, and while I get it's horrific, I was like, this was like the first guy that I was ever with, and I was like, not that, but one time when because he was quite violent as well, I was like, he got remanded for stuff he did, and I was like, and you knew all that.
Yeah.
And I told you all this stuff, but then again, she knew he always had drugs, and that was another thing. She kept going to him, and I'm like, and you ignored all this other stuff, and now you're saying, obviously, you're bringing it up nearly. I just didn't need a message in that, but I was like, it's obviously traumatised you, and it's a horrible thing to have happened, but I went through that and a lot more with him, and you knew that, and you still were more bothered about being around drugs, and now you're going to message me about it
and remind me of everything that
it was so quick into the conversation as well. It was just a bit like, great.
Do you think there's elements of control when we talk about sort of paedophiles and sex offenders?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you think that's one
and
of the
abusive
main...
partners, I think, as well.
And not to be stereotypical, but when we watch the videos of the group in Leeds, I think they're called the Paedophile Hunters. They always seem to be
That's
people...
the same ones that was meaning by the Dark Justice and...
Right, okay. So yeah,
They're
so
the ones up
them
the
type of
northeast.
groups,
Yeah.
you'll see them catch somebody and you could quite easily say that person's struggling with mental health or that person... And I've not seen somebody yet who I think I could work in an office with that person and not know that this was going on. It's whether it's...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems to be like oh yeah, I'm not that surprised that this person who looks this particular way, and it's very stereotypical, but
Yes.
they're the only ones that I've seen. But then you have got Jeffrey Epstein, however
Yeah.
you say it.
Yeah.
He's a very successful businessman, and they had
And he
all
was
sorts
that
of people going to their
Hollywood
island.
director and that.
It's
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. I was
Yeah.
going to say it's something like Epstein.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
But again, that's massive control. That is what
yeah.
that is. That's about power and control. So it's hard. It's difficult to sort of.
Massively, like that guy that I was with, like when I was 15, 16, I'd just get with very young people, like girls, but wait until you're 16, then it'd be like, oh, she's legal. I actually said that to my mum, which did not go down very well. But he was like 8 years older than me, and it was sort of, you know, when you see the pattern of somebody in, even just my ex, it's just massive. Like when I did that freedom program, like the first session, they get you all to fill out something like, oh, what do you think makes somebody abusive? Is it unemployment, drinks, drugs, stress, blah, 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 or none of the above, it's control? And I was the only one who ticked that. And they were like, the rest of the users' excuses. It's sort of, it is about having control and making someone vulnerable, and yeah, it's massively, yeah.
So if
I think people who are into consensual sex and enjoy having sex with somebody, it's very different to where you're forcing yourself on somebody who does not want that, and they've not consented to that, and I don't understand what would make somebody enjoy that. Because you're taking that control away from them, and you've.
So one thing I hear is that 2 15-year-olds have sex. Only the boy can get done for underage sex. So the law only prosecutes the boy.
And did you know if a guy gets raped, isn't it that, I don't know 100% if this is right, but he wouldn't be able to charge somebody with rape, it's sexual assault?
Yeah, because
I
he
think
has
is
to be aroused to be able to be forced into having sex. That's why as 2
See, I
15-year-olds,
don't agree with that.
That's why 2 15-year-olds only the boy would get done, because you can force a girl to have sex, but you can't force a boy to have sex unless he's aroused. Do you know?
Yeah. But say if a guy was tied down, you start doing things to arouse him, I think it's just going to naturally happen, isn't it?
Oh, massively.
Yeah, so it's...
15-year-old boy, you
Yeah.
could strip off in front of him and that would probably be enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just,
And I think
it
it's
seems
massively
really
different.
old-fashioned.
Very, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I don't even know what I was going to say with that. These gender differences. And that's it. Like, you know, like school teachers, if it's a male adult teacher, who's got with like a 14, 15-year-old girl, it's you've got the police looking for him and everything. But if it's a female adult teacher, that it's always like portrayed in the media as this like love story or something.
And
do you know what I mean?
the comments are always from guys like, oh, I wish she were my teacher.
Yeah.
Never as a
Oh, he's
woman
nearly
said,
16, it's not that bad. But if it was the other way around...
never as a woman looked at
uproar.
one of those comments and gone, oh, I wish he was my teacher.
Yeah.
You know.
But if that was the other way around, there's total uproar if it's a man and a young girl. And...
But it's the whole, if you have a son and a daughter, you high-five your son when he has a girlfriend. You
Lock up your
your
daughter.
daughter if she has a boyfriend. I think we contribute a lot towards that. Mm-hmm. You know, we and I think that makes it worse sometimes because you've got girls trying to rebel against strict rules, and it's difficult. But what you've got to remember is it's the girl who could potentially end up pregnant with a baby for the rest of her life, and the 15, 16-year-old boy. I'm not saying that it's never going to happen, but it's unlikely that they're going to say, do you know what, I'll stay with you forever and we'll raise this child together and we'll do this and we'll do that.
Yeah,
So
totally agree.
he has the option to walk away and do however much or however little that looks like, whereas she now has a
child,
baby.
yeah. And this is where it will come into me saying I completely think it's a woman's got a right to choose to have an abortion. Like I was saying earlier, where some people are like, oh no, I'm pro-life. Like, does the guy not get a choice and stuff like that? And
I think the guy can have an opinion and that can go towards a decision. But again, at 16, as a boy, you'll be thinking very differently at 16 than what you will at 18, what you will at 20,
30,
25, 30.
And it's very easy, I think, for you to stand there. But at the end of the day, it's everything's put on females. You know, I'm sorry, like body-wise as well. Like we have everything, and guys, you get nothing. Even like what irritates me, like contraception. You know, like where you will get some guys who won't want to wear a condom, and they're sort of like, well, are you on the pill? And it's like, why is it always has
Your
to be the woman
responsibility,
who has, like, why can't guys get anything made contraception wise for them? Do you know what I mean? So we can be like, well, are you on this to... Why is it always on a female? And it just irritates me. But back to pregnancy, it's a woman who's got to go through those body changes. And I remember that person that I was having a debate with, and they were like, oh, well, there's adoption. And it's like, you're still having to put your body through so much trauma for 9 months and then give birth to just give it away. And it's sort of like, again, it's all on the female. So
And I think you'd feel differently at the start of a pregnancy and at the end of a pregnancy.
Yeah.
On if you could then, like, surrogates, I think it's...
Yeah.
I mean, people get used to doing it, but I bet the first time you'd have that sort of, oh, I don't know if I've made the right decision.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, women do get a shit deal when it comes to everything like that. Like, we do sort of...
You've got it so easy.
Even like one night stands, you know, you both go out, you're drunk, you both consent, the guy leaves the next day, then the girl has to go through the... I need to get a test. I need to do the test. I need to see the results. And the guy's, weeks away. He's no swapping of numbers, no nothing. There's irresponsibility from both sides, but then all the pressure is then on the female.
Yeah, totally.
And the guy's not going to get in touch and be like, I just want to check. It's been a couple of weeks. You know, are you...
Is everything okay?
Yeah. Do we,
I know it's... Even just getting ready to go out. You know, guys like complain that...
I'm so glad I'm a boy.
Guys complain like, oh, you take so long. And it's like, I'm sorry, are you torn between the thing of a shirt, T-shirt or a pair of jeans? And it's like, no, what it is. It's like, I'd seen something once where it's like, well, why don't men have to wear makeup? And the answer was like, because society has never made men feel like they need to. Where women, it's you feel like you have to do so much, or it's just become ingrained in society, all these things that you have to do. Although I am actually, especially in the northeast, you know, when you're surrounded by Botox and boob jobs and stuff and huge lips, I've reached 30 and never had any work done. I am a little bit just like, you know what, I see that as an achievement.
But you had your first ride on a motorbike today.
I did.
Did you enjoy it?
I did.
You didn't enjoy... So I said to you, make sure you're wearing jeans because we're going on the bike.
Yes.
And then when you walked towards me with your jeans on and a vest with no jacket, and I was just like, why? When I said wear jeans, what did you think that was for?
But you were wearing
to
a
then
t-shirt.
have your arms and shoulders like completely exposed.
No, well, I figured like my legs would be down by the bike. Like, what was it for?
In case we got knocked off or something.
Oh. Well, I had total faith in you. I didn't think that would happen.
Oh, right. Okay. I appreciate that. And when you took the helmet off, your makeup was all still okay. You didn't have to worry about any of that, did you?
I wasn't that worried, but I did expect like my eyebrows to get smudged when I took the helmet off. So.
Do you know what I read today as well?
What?
When we film forms in, men put Mr. Women have to declare whether they're a Miss, a Ms,
Mrs.
Mrs. And it's like, why?
What even is a Ms?
I think it's a divorce
I was
or a
wondering
widow.
that,
but why are we so concerned about a woman's marital status and not a man's? Why is man just Mr.? Is it because it doesn't matter what his status is because we know he's a man, so he's qualified for whatever this form is? Are we then judging women on whether they're married or not, whether they should be part of whatever this form is for?
Yeah.
Never ever thought about the different options until today when that post came out.
Okay.
Never thought about it. And I always assumed it was just because I'll be Mr. Pierce all my life, whether I get married or not. Whereas, is it because if you're Mrs. Pierce, then they know that Pierce isn't your original surname? If you're Miss, then that's your original surname. Is it?
Yeah.
But
then I'm very massively about like this whole change a little bit, you know. Because I changed my name when I was like 14 because I didn't really speak to my dad as much then, and I didn't like his surname, and my name got pulled apart at school. I hated it. But like my name now is like who I am, but I quite like it, and I'm sort of, you know, this thing like if I get married, why not the guy take my name? I think it's a very medieval tradition, especially like at weddings when. Obviously never been in that position. I'm like, you know, not preparing a wedding, but I think some people.
Would you ever get married?
I think if it came about, I might like to.
Right, okay.
For the point of like, I don't know what.
I didn't bring you on here to propose.
Oh damn it! I don't know. How I was going with that.
the father handing over
Don't even get me
his
started on that.
daughter
Like,
to this
yeah.
new
So I think
protector of
that is a very medieval thing. That is about you being the property
Yeah.
of this man, and he is handed. And a lot of the times it used to be people would pay dowry or something for you, and you'd be handed over, and you're his property. If anyone needs looking after, I'm sorry, it's the man. And it's sort of the woman who will do everything. You know, I've seen videos where men own this stuff. You know, a guy had put a video up the other week where his wife's working in hospital and doing overtime. So he took on what she does in the house and things like that. And he was like, she does this on top of working full time. And he was like, this is unbelievable. Like, how do we manage it without
Yeah.
it sort of thing? And I like it when guys take ownership of that. But like
yeah.
handing your grown-ass woman,
There
adult,
you go, mate.
away.
She's your responsibility
Here you go,
now.
she's yours. Like, you're nobody's property.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they change it from like man and wife. So it's like, so he's still a man, but she's not just a wife. It's not man and woman.
Yeah.
And I just think it's, no.
The best line I've ever seen about a wedding is, I love you so much, I'm going to get the government involved. That's what a wedding is. I love you so much,
Yeah.
I want the government to make it official. I've
Yeah.
just never...
That's why when you asked
understood
me, I was thinking, like, I know a lot of people have views about it's this or this, but I think if it came to the point that I was with somebody and, you know, you have this life and they propose and it felt right, I might be like, yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know how I get perceived from people because I know I'm like 39 and obviously been single for a while, but like a lot of people like, you know, just that, like, oh, would you want to get married? Like, do you want to have kids? And I don't know how I get perceived either. I'm just cracking on as I am or sort of,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's tough, innit? I've always said, so at the moment, I'm trying to buy my mum's house. So,
Okay.
So that she don't have to worry about rent, so she can just live in that house. And then
Oh,
when
that's
it
nice,
gets
yeah.
to a point where she's not here anymore, I don't know how, the nice way of saying that.
Yes.
So I was hoping Corona were going to take her, but it hadn't yet.
Oh my God.
So at some point when she's not here anymore, I then have a house.
Mm-hmm.
But at this moment in time, if I was to meet a girl and we start dating, and then she says, "Mum, I've met a guy." Oh, brilliant! Tell me about him. All right, well, he's called Phil. He lives with his mum. He's 36. He's been to prison. He's got a beard and tattoos. He rides a motorbike.
He was a drug addict.
Drug addict, yeah. And you just think, oh yeah, tick. What a guy. He's ticking all these right boxes.
Yeah.
And you just think that is going to be conversations, but not from potential partners' parents. It's from employers. It's from friends that we meet. Anyone that we meet new that doesn't know us or our personality. Tell me about him. What's it? All right, so it's this and it's this and it's this and it's this.
Obviously at uni I had to declare my convictions and then social work as well, and you get your enhanced DBSs and stuff like that, and just at the beginning of my undergrad, and then I've had to do it for the masters as well, because it says like, do you have any criminal convictions, and you're like, yes, and your DBS is there. And my friend was around from uni the other day and I didn't realise I'd never told her any of this stuff, so I was just spilling out all these stories and stuff, and she was like, oh, is it on your DBS? And I was like, my DBS is like 6 pages front and back. And then just the look on her face, I was like, oh. But yeah, you've got to do it. And like, so I have to give this statement, and when I was volunteering for probation, they come out and they have to do this. You just get used to it, but it's always this check-in. Where were you then? What happened to occur all these things? Like, what's different now? And I have to write this statement. I did just put, I do understand on paper, shoplifting, burglary. I was like, it makes me look like a very dishonest person.
Yeah.
But at that time, all of this, I wouldn't remember half the stuff I was doing. And I think it's part of, well, I hope like in certain areas, especially if they understand addiction, they do get, I think offending and getting a criminal record comes hand in hand a lot of time with addiction. It does end up happening sort of thing. So, but it is very difficult. And I do think, obviously, like, stop me going into prisons. I don't know how it's going to affect me with employers and social work.
I promise you it will be a benefit. It might not feel like it at the moment, and it wasn't for me when I first started, but it might potentially affect you getting a position. But as soon as you get a position and you speak to people and you say, I'm not like the other social workers, I've been there, I've done that, you will create such a bond with the people you work with that you will excel in what you do. I went to an open mic and I feel like a fraud because I performed at an open mic and then someone approached me after and said, I want you to come and work for me. And it was a massive company, a big company. And I started work alongside fully qualified social workers,
Right.
and I had no training, no experience. All I've got is my criminal history. So because you have done both, you're going to be sort of... I think it's a selling point, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think when you go into an interview, you can say, I'm just as qualified as everybody else that's applying for this job,
Yeah.
but I also have this. I know what it's like to be in a prison. I know what that first day is like when you get processed. I know what it's like counting down days. I know what it's like meeting your cellmate for the first time. I know what it's like not being able to stop taking drugs.
Yeah.
And it gives you a massive advantage. And I think the sooner people realise that life experience enhances your ability to do things,
Yeah.
the better your opportunities will be.
Yeah.
Because we shy away from talking about things because we think that people will judge us on it. But really, it's an interest. If you sit next to someone who's an accountant, who's left school, gone to college, gone to uni, got drunk a few times in their life, not that there's anything wrong with being an accountant, but what I mean is it's something that not a lot of people know about. So you say accountant, you think, all right, so they're doing numbers. And then they say, all right, so what did you do for your holiday? Oh, well, I went to, I don't know where accountants go on holiday, but everything will just be sort of mundane. No, again, no offence to
I'm
accountants.
trying to fit, like, yeah.
If you say,
I went to Scotland.
but if you say,
know what I mean? Like,
well, I can't go to America because I've been to prison. Oh, you've been to prison?
What have you been to prison for?
You go, when I went for my interview at Leeds City Council, it was the first job I got when I left prison. They saw on my application form time in prison because there's a gap in my criminal, in my work history. Yeah. So what I didn't want to do is not talk to them about it, because some people will give you a interview to find out what you've done. They know you've been to prison and they're like, oh, let's find out. Especially females. It's very rare you meet a female that's been to prison. Like for men, it's unfortunate, but now it's like, oh, he's been to prison.
Yeah.
So there'll be that intrigue and it's like, I wonder what she did. Let's get her in. And I've always said that's brilliant, because now you've got an opportunity to sell yourself. In an interview, give me an example. Well, when I was at work, I did this. When I was at work, I did this. Tell me about yourself. Well, I'm hardworking, I'm this and I'm that. All right, same answers that everybody gives. You get in there and you say, well, do you know, I've got quite a lot of it. I've been to prison and I've done this. And do you know what? It changed my life because now I appreciate this and this. And it gives you an opportunity to make that interview personal.
Yeah.
It's not about work anymore.
I do agree. Like when I was waiting in court for NEPACs, like I could say that, so we were supporting the family members, but we talked to a lot of people who were waiting to go into court. So I'd seen like my parents, or whenever they turn up, like go through it, but I would be able to say to people like, I know how this feels when you're sitting waiting for court, and it is one of those. But then obviously when I went into Durham and the governor was talking, giving the spiel like, oh yes, we look past this, and I'm sat there going, no you don't, because I've been trying to apply for you for ages. But like on my social work interview though, I know it's for uni, and then I do sometimes feel like, are they a bit slacker with that, and they do let people in, but they did ask like, what does discrimination mean to you? And I had used that as an example. I'd sort of said, because I'd always wanted to try and work with sex workers and things like that. And I was saying, so there's a place called A Way Out in Middlesbrough, and it's just a Christian charity that work with a lot of the sex workers in Middlesbrough. But when I applied to them, I'd sort of said at this point, I'd been at Durham Uni for 2 or 3 years. I'd volunteered for probation. I'd been working in courts. Volunteered for this, or applied for this Christian charity in Middlesbrough. And they turned around and they were like, no, you need a little bit more clean time. Sorry, we can't take you because of this and this and this. And we don't have enough staff because you'd need someone accompanying you like the whole time. And I was like 4 or 5 years sober at that time. And I spoke to this woman at NEPACs because I was working in Newcastle Crown Court, and she was like, you get that with Christian charities. And I feel like that was massive discrimination towards me because they saw my criminal record and they were just like, no. And so I used that in my interview, and I was like...
Christian charities that were about forgiveness and... second chances
and they'd said to me in the interview, we do get some people trying to get clean, but the longest clean time they get is like 6 months. You could be like a great inspiration, blah blah blah, not in a really like ego way, just that's what they said. But when it got to a manager, so the woman who'd interviewed me seemed fine with me, but then she'd run back and being like, oh no, we need a little bit more time spent.
Risk assessment happened.
But when they said like, we need like the time spent, we need a little bit more time. So then this woman who I worked with in court, my last one was 2014, so she looked it up and she looked everything up and she was like, I think your convictions are spent. Like they're spent, and they're just using that as an excuse.
But the good thing is that company will eventually see the work that you're doing and think, I don't know. We've dropped the ball.
It was just really disheartening, when you're like, all of this stuff, and that's I want to try and experience working in some aspect of this, and
But you will find that I worked 2 jobs for 4 years because I couldn't get funding. No one would trust me. I'd just out of prison. I've got no track record of taking funding in. I've not got a company. We're not registered. And slowly but surely, things started to fall into place. And then all the organisations that tried to take advantage of us when we first started are now asking to work with us.
all
And
right.
it's that whole, you give me an opportunity to prove to you, and if you don't, I'll create my own opportunity, and then you'll regret not working with me in the first place.
Yeah.
And I've always been driven by people saying you won't be able to do that. That's my motivation to then sort of show them that this is possible.
Yeah.
And I just, honestly, I truly believe, because I've known you for quite a few years now, and the determination that's in you, and the fact that you've gone from, yeah, I'm just going to do criminology, and then it's like, right, I've done criminology, what's next? And now I'm just going to do a master's, and then I'm going to be a social worker. And like I say, the two bits, the lived experience and the education that you've got, that you will have over the 6-7 years that you've been through uni, is just going to be sort of invaluable. You'll be a benefit.
It'll have been
to
7 years by the end,
end
because my access course, and then 3.5-ish years, and then 2 years masters.
Come back to Leeds.
I might do.
Come back to Leeds, definitely.
I was saying this to my friend yesterday, when I'm sometimes up there, and I think I do find a lot of things to do up there, but other times when you're just by yourself and you might get a bit lonely and whatever, and I am like...
We've had conversations about it.
Yeah, and I've
just
sat
before
there
you
and
bought your house, you were sort of like, I'm not sure whether...
Yeah, and I feel very isolated up there sometimes, and everyone I do meet from uni, they always leave at the end of the year and things like that. But then I've come down this week and then met a couple of my cousins and my friend yesterday, but I was saying this to her, like, I've kept thinking, like, oh, what if I come back to Leeds? But now I'm down, I'm like, I don't actually know that many people in Leeds. I'm always like, oh, my family will be there, but they've all got their own lives, they're very busy. And I was sort of thinking, like, yesterday, like, I don't actually feel like I know that many people anymore.
The thing is, because you've been in Durham for so long, if you moved back to Leeds, Durham would then be the Leeds. So you'd be in Leeds thinking, oh, I miss people in Durham, so I'm going to travel back, and you'd spend like a couple of days there catching up with people, and you come back. People make an effort when you visit. So you might move back to Leeds and then realise, oh, this isn't the sort of all day, every day, packed full of visitors that I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously you've got when I'm hating going in shops and stuff, but like, I just get nostalgia all the time, just walking around going, oh, I've missed Leeds City Centre, I've missed there being shops that I don't have in Durham, and it's like every day, like, I had this, and I won't have the money to go in,
I'm going to say, it's a quick way to get skinned, isn't it?
I've gone shopping every time I'm coming to town so far. I'm just like, I don't have a job. I don't have an Abercrombie and Fitch in Durham. Let's go here. Yeah. It's just that and I'm like, oh, well, I'm in Leeds.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do.
But I did want to say that about prisons as well, just quickly. When you were on about that gender gap thing, I think that about female prisons, because there's, the same as domestic abuse refuges. There's more animal shelters in the UK than domestic abuse refuges. I think.
Wow.
But female prisons wise, they've always been, I think, like, made by men for men. And I think the criminal justice system works the exact same way, the laws that were wrote. And I think harsher sentences happen to females as well. I meant to say this before. And I think they try and make examples sometimes of women.
Yeah.
So women will get sent to prison, maybe for, like, even just things like not paying your council tax, or bizarre things like, they try and make an example of women, but because there's so little, they'll sometimes get sent hundreds of miles away from the kids and things like that. But it's just...
I think the other thing about a lot
of
of women who I know that are in prison have all been a retaliation from behaviour from a man. So it's a domestic abuse relationship where they've been bullied, where they've been abused, where they've been
coerced into going out and committing a
physically
crime.
and verbally. Yeah, so there's all these things that happen, and then they retaliate in a way that causes either GBH, or they'll stab this person, not to kill them, and most of the time they don't kill them, but that's like a last resort. This is months or years of built up, and then this one thing happens, and then she goes to prison and he doesn't. And I think that's,
then he's out with the next new lass.
Yeah, and there's a pattern that emerges, and I think that's horrendous, because none of that's taken into consideration.
No.
I've got a friend who's transgender. Mm-hmm. He's called Dalton, and he was in Newhall Prison. And he's campaigning for better rights for trans people. So he had a lot of problems while he was in a female prison. But the conversation we had with him was, it's better for you to be in a female prison with female genitalia than it would have been to be in a male prison with female genitalia. And I think he understands that he was in the safest place he could be, but it still doesn't feel right, him as a man being in a female prison. Toilets, showers. So
Did they ask him? Like,
there was never an option for him to be transferred to a male prison.
Right. So
there were. I don't want to say anything bad about New Hall Prison because I know some of the staff there, and it is a really good prison. The
as far as prisons go.
As far as prisons go, some of the courses that they put on, and this is not sort of prison courses, this is staff there thinking up things that are good for the women that are there. So I know there's a lot of good stuff that happens. I
mean, the one that I met, I wasn't there very long, but like he was nice.
Yeah.
Like, I'd obviously sobered up. I'd been in Bridewell for like 48 hours before I even got took there. And he let me have a shower when I got there, and he was sort of just, he'd said that. He was like, what is someone like you doing here? And I was like, I have no idea. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
but he was really nice.
You do get, and there's probably sort of 9 out of 10 are brilliant. And then, unfortunately, Dalton experienced a couple of the 1 out of 10s. From members of staff? Yeah, who would, instead of, so on the Tannoy systems, instead of saying, inmates, can you all make your way to, they'd purposely say ladies on his wing.
Right.
Just little things.
When was that? Like, when was he?
I think he was released about a year ago.
Right, that's not...
I think I met him about a year ago, so it's a year to 2 years. He was there, and yeah, they just made things really difficult. But he's now campaigning for sort of. I don't think there'll ever be a transgender prison. I don't think it will ever happen. It would be good if there was a sort of a wing.
A wing, yeah. I was going to say.
But then why are we segregating? We're making them different, and it's a really difficult. You want to treat everyone equally, and I think that's all people want. But
then if you're saying he went in there and he wasn't happy with the facilities, it's if he's transgendering into a female. But then
no, so
how do you win?
Dalton was female and is now male.
Oh right, okay.
So yeah,
right.
So he's male with female genitalia,
right,
in a women's prison, but he obviously wants a male shower. He wants a male toilet. He wants because he's a man.
He identifies as a man.
He needs male facilities.
Yeah.
But they're making him stay in a women's prison.
I mean, I think you need more female prisons for a start, and then it's like it definitely needs tackling, but it's sort of just all of it. But obviously, I feel like I've got a grasp of, like when I went to visit him in Durham, like this year, like I spoke to one of the screws on the way out. They were really nice, but then I think working in court and stuff, I've heard a lot about him. And then when he's got moved to Northumberland, you're like, I don't like you, but I was like, I would not wish Northumberland prison on anyone.
Yeah,
I think like that's not great. But I think I don't know, like this was before the Black Lives Matter, like I always got raised by my mum a certain way, and when he'd be on the phone and I'd hear his cellmate and stuff, and I think this guy was getting out, and I don't know, I just felt for some of the people in there, like thinking this is 2020. I know everyone's a bit like backwards up north a little bit sometimes, because I'd hear him like, this guy was getting out and he was like, oh, ask her, is that patty shop like still open around the corner? And I'd heard it, and I'd literally said to him, I was like, reword that question before you say that to me. But then he goes off at me, and he's like, I can't help how he's speaking and stuff like that. And this guy was getting out, and he was saying he gets on with him, and I think there must have been a black guy in the wing. I just heard him, and he was like, oh, he's wanting to put that blackie in here. And this was before the Black Lives Matter sort of thing. It was the beginning of the year, and I was just sort of thinking, like, we're in 2020, like, what are people still speaking? I was really shocked, because I've grown up in Leeds. It's the most diverse city, like it was never even a second thought for me. And I'm thinking
different in Durham then?
It's very
white.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a bit more when you go to Newcastle. But I just remember thinking like, and I don't even like speaking. And you know what irritates me is you'll always get these people who follow in like, oh, but they are Pakistani, and it's sort of like, how do you know that though? That might be the origin. They might have been born here, but if we'd had,
even if they are, it's still a derogatory.
Yeah, and that's what I said. Like I've never caught like. In Durham, like a lot of people say, it's like you're getting a chinkies, and I'm sort of, if all our lives we'd had the word Brits used to us in a derogatory, racist term, then we'd feel the same way, wouldn't we? It's like, but we've never been ridiculed for that. We've never had that as a racist terminology. A lot of people Dude, I remember as a kid, like, my dad would call our next door neighbours that, and before I even really realised, and people would say, oh, it's his generation, but I'd be like, they're not, they're Indian. You know, like, as a kid, I'm like, I don't even realise the difference, but hearing it, you know, even from this guy, I was like, and I just felt for that inmate who's back and thinking, if that is just our one person speaking to you, what must it be like for you in Durham prison? You know, and it is predominantly probably white men.
I went to a
and I just fell for this guy, and I was like, don't repeat those questions to me like that, reword it, because I don't want to have...
But it's things like that where it becomes normal and no one questions it anymore, and then it's sort of, because no one questions it, people carry on using those terms. I went to a drive-in cinema, and we watched Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, yeah.
3 N-bombs in the film. First one came, I looked at my friend in the car.
I was thinking of how to abbreviate the words I was speaking, but I didn't know.
Yeah, I looked at my friend in the car and I was just like, did
they seriously just say that? Yeah.
And I looked around and all the other cars, everyone was just still watching the film. There was no one broke away to see how anyone else was looking,
really?
To have a conversation about it. And 2 or 3 times it happened. Faggot was in there, and you just sort of like, every time we looked around, there was just sort of nothing, no sort of reaction from anybody, and it's like it's just that film came out in I think 1993,
right?
And that's not that long ago.
I mean, the sex that I was speaking to, like, I've always had these views anyway, and he had followed it up by like, I wouldn't have spoke that question to you, but I can't help how he speaks, and obviously I just heard him asking, but he seemed more offensive to me, like sort of, well, he speaks like that, I can't help it. And it's like, okay, I get you were in prison, I get it's a different world, but why didn't you call him out on that? Like, instead you're laughing and joking with him, you find that acceptable. And I was like, that is not acceptable, it's not okay. But like,
and they say the N-word is the worst out of the lot because it was created as a derogatory term. So if you think chink can be a chink in the armour, it can be, there's an alternate for most words. And it's, like you say, Brit, if that was one of those words.
Yeah.
So it's a word that we have made racist.
And that's what I meant, like, if we'd always gone to different countries, like, dirty Brits.
Exactly.
If that was constantly used against us offensively, you would not like to be called that, would you?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the N-word's the worst, because that word only exists in a racist slur.
And you know what racist people say, like, when they're defending that, like, oh, but black people call each other that.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you're not.
What have we got? Cracker. That's probably the racist slur towards a white person, isn't it? Cracker.
I don't know, but you'll always find something. And I think if you ever have to, you know, people are sort of saying like, oh, but they are that origin or whatever. I think if you have to defend what you're calling somebody, it's probably
wrong.
not okay.
Yeah.
But it's so I think, you know, like when I have tried to say this to people, I can't remember what terminology they use, but white people, they'll be like, yeah, we have this name, and I've been called this. And, you know, hearing things that I've never heard in my life.
Cracker and honky.
White boy.
And you just think, like,
is that really that offensive?
How offended do I actually feel? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does nothing to me. Like,
but like saying like Winston Churchill's a racist, and you know when you look at all these things, and I sort of like I didn't know about it, and I just thought like, you know, that didn't need to get defaced, because you think like what you know about him, he got us through the World War. Where would we be if that hadn't happened? What would have happened? But you know, like all my life I've had people say like, well, your dad's Irish, it's his generation. And I've had to put up with that, the way he speaks and things. I don't like. He's quite sexist. He uses racist terminology. You know, when he talks about the shops in Heralds and stuff, and I'm like, grinds on me. But everyone's like, he's never going to change. But I think if you look at that time of Winston Churchill, like how he spoke, like a prime minister today would not speak about different countries that way. But I think very little was known about the countries in the British colony, and at that time, women had no rights. The suffragettes had to do what they did.
Exactly,
we had no rights over children. We had no education. We could not work. We were second-class citizens. And at that time as well, black people were still being used as slaves. And it's like a lot has had to happen for that to change. But to say, well, he was racist then, and it's like, you're like trying to erase history. We've had to have a lot happen to move on from that point, haven't we? I'm going off on a tangent now.
No, it's good. One of the biggest things, like I love that Black Lives Matter is such a big talking point. I love it because it's identifying people's racism. People say things and they start with, I'm not racist, but I don't agree with this Black Lives Matter. And it's like, And it's
Yeah.
the same. If you start a sentence with "I'm not being racist," but then you're
Yeah.
probably being racist.
You know, I used to always say to someone like, no, my black mates, my best mate's
Yeah,
black.
my best mate's black. Yeah,
Oh,
I
of
love
course
that.
they are. I should just say that one of my exes
but
is
to be
black. I'm not
fair,
racist.
We've got, so in our groups of friends, I like the guys who we used to go out with. There was a lad called Dan, and because there was a few, everyone had. So I was Dungaree Phil, there was Dancer Phil, and there was Black Dan, and that's what we called him. But he came up with that. And we used to,
Yeah.
you know, that was his name, and when you think about it now, like that's not okay.
Wouldn't be acceptable probably now.
Exactly.
It's not politically correct,
But
is
I
it?
love that people are talking about it, and I love that things are changing. Some of the statues, I believe, deserve to come down. Some
Yeah.
of them, not so much. But it's sort of the whole.
But I think this Black Lives Matter is a bit like the suffragette movement. And I think like it's raising it awareness, and maybe this has to happen for things to change.
Oh, massively, yeah. And things are changing,
Yeah.
and it's brilliant. And people are more aware. Like I've had so many conversations on social media, and then at the end, some of them are saying, "Oh yeah, I get it now," and it feels like, all right, mission accomplished. But that's one
Yeah,
person.
one tiny little.
That's one person
speck.
who said, "Yeah, I understand why now," and it's the whole all lives matter, and it's why can't we say all lives matter? And we're not. That's not the bit we should be focusing on. It's the matter bit. So it's
Yeah.
not about the Black Lives Matter. It's not about the White Lives Matter. It's Black Lives Matter. This is what we're saying. Whereas, if all lives should matter, but the way that society is, they don't.
Yeah.
So we need to pull up
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter to be on a level par with White Lives Matter, and then we can say all lives matter. But
Okay,
at the
yeah.
moment, it's not. You know, black people are treated differently.
I wondered
So
would this
until
have-
that's equal, all lives don't matter.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I wondered, would this have been such a big thing if we went in lockdown at the time? But it did
Yeah.
irritate me because, and this is what I posted first before, it's going to be awful.
George Floyd.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't post his picture first because as soon as I heard it and I heard that I can't breathe, like we looked at it in criminology. So this was like at least 4 or 5 years ago that we looked at it. There was a guy called Eric Garner, and it is not new news that American police are inherently racist, you know, and that it is very dangerous sometimes to be a black individual in America more than it is, I feel like, in the UK. But Eric Garner was stopped for selling cigarettes on a street corner in New York, and he reminded me of the guy from the Green Mile. So he was
Oh, yeah.
quite big, and literally he got put in a chokehold, and the last things he was saying was "I can't breathe," and he died the exact same way, saying the last things that George Floyd said, and they tried to raise awareness around it. Then people have gone marches through New York chanting "I can't breathe," and I think if you look at the difference to the police officer then, who never got charged for it, to the ones with George Floyd, but it did make me a bit annoyed because I was like, where were you all then? Like, why is this just happening now? This has been going on. And it's good that it's happening,
Yeah.
but as soon as I heard it, I was like, well, that guy's just died saying the exact same thing that another black guy said years ago, and this has been happening over and
So
over again.
There's been protests for years.
Yeah.
There's, I can't remember the number, but there's a number and then the word shots, and it's on Netflix. And I think it's like 15 shots maybe. But if you watch on Netflix, so a kid gets shot and killed. He's running down the street and he gets shot and killed by the police. He is carrying a knife. He's running away from the police. The report, he got shot once. He was running at a police officer with a knife, so they shot and killed him for their protection.
Right.
So hearing that, you think, fair enough.
Right.
Someone's running at you with a knife. You're a police officer with a gun.
Firearms,
I
you're trained to, you're going to
I
give
still
a
don't
warning.
understand why we don't shoot hands, arms, feet, legs.
Shoulder.
Yeah, anything to immobilise that threat.
Make you fall over and sort
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, I don't get that.
then so that's the police report. An independent report is done, and whatever the number on the programme is, so if it's 15 shots, the kid was shot 15 times. None of it was in this report. So the video comes out, the kid is running away from police. There's a car following him, so I don't know what's going on with him, but he's jogging, he's not running, he's sort of fast walking
Right.
in the middle of this road, and the police car pulls up behind him, and then you see another car pull up, 2 police officers jump out, both pull the firearms up, one of them shoots him until his clip's empty, kills him, The other police officer is interviewed and said, "Why didn't you shoot?" And he said, "Because I didn't think there was a threat." So that's very important to know.
Yeah.
So they're stood side by side. So it goes to court, and there's massive campaigns in this city. I can't remember what city it is. There's massive sort of protests, and everyone, there's cameras, and they're interviewing, and they're sort of saying, nothing's going to change. It never does. Police officer gets charged at 13. I think it's 13 shots. So for every bullet can hold up to 6 years in prison. So 13 times 6 plus murder 1, murder 2, murder 3, whatever it is they're going for, right? So he's going to get all these charges. The videos there, they're showing celebrations. There's people with banners. There's sort of everyone celebrating that, because this is a key point. This is the first time that something's been done about it, right? So then there's a gap between the judge saying, the jury saying guilty, 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 guilty 13 times to each shot, and then guilty to whatever charges they got. So he got full guilty. So then he goes in front of a judge who decides what sentence he's going to get. So he says, we're going to discount the 13 bullets. So he cleared them, charged him with whatever degree murder it was, and he got a few years. So they went from this.
What?
They went from this.
This is somewhere in America?
Yeah. It's on Netflix. So it went from, I think this was 2004 or 2006. So it wasn't that long ago. Or was it 2014? I should have looked at this. I didn't know we were going to talk about this.
Yeah, we've covered a wide spectrum, haven't we?
So they went from, it's happened again, and all the disappointment, all the anger that comes with it, to he's finally being charged, the celebrations, this is going to stop happening. Police now understand that they cannot kill innocent black people anymore, to, all right, he's been charged, but he's got away with it. What's a couple of years in prison for murder? And like
compared to what you seemed like you were going to get,
this is it. And
it's disgusting.
That's just another one of many. I've got a list on my computer of so many stories where you can look, and people have been killed whilst in bed. Neighbours have reported a disturbance. Police have gone, seen someone through a window, fired, killed somebody. A woman who was a nurse got killed through her bedroom window. She was at home on her own, and the police saw her through the window and shot and killed her. There's a guy who's potentially going to prison now because he fired at the police. They've gone into the house. I'm sure this is a story where it's the wrong house.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And they shoot his girlfriend who's in bed with him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know who they are.
That was just after George Floyd and this Black Lives Matter and that, wasn't it? Yeah.
They don't know. He doesn't know who they are. So he opens fire back, and then I don't think he hits anyone, but he's then arrested for attempted murder on a police officer. And when you talk about these things, and you've got people saying, "Yeah, but we're treated badly as well," and you just
not to that extent. I did a policing module in criminology, and the British police were asked, "Would you want to start carrying guns?" Because like the highest form they have are tasers, and generally the vote came back as they didn't want to, because they sort of said like, if we start carrying guns, more guns are going to come on the street.
Yeah.
Where I know we have stabbings, and that's quite high. Like I think beginning of last year, the death rate in London was higher than the murder rate in New York. Like stabbings have got very bad, haven't they? And I think it's right because we don't have schools getting shot at by a school kid, you know. And I think it's, so we looked at the police culture and that pop canteen culture that British police have, and you know, when undercover journalists have gone in, I think there was that. Wasn't Lee Rigby? I can't remember what it was called because I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but it was a huge. There's a big report against it, but I think policing and the criminal justice system in America is
they don't
very
get anywhere
flawed.
near the training that we get in England.
No, I think it's hugely flawed compared to sometimes I think sentences for certain crimes in the UK are nothing for what they should be. Like when I hear the guy's on, like I can't remember his name, the footballer who got done for rape and he got 2.5 years and then it got acquitted. What is he called?
I can't remember.
But basically, you know what I mean? It's like 2.5 years for it and something, you'll serve half of that. It's sort of, but...
And he got, I'm sure he went back as a professional footballer for a different
probably
team.
because I think his girlfriend's dad paid for him to get it acquitted again. But
then tax evasion, if you commit white-collar crimes, you get a lot longer than you do for sexual offences and...
Yeah. I don't know, we looked at that because sometimes they're seen as like victimless crimes. So there's the huge corporations and things like that. Like, you don't always hear, like the Enron scandal, you don't always hear about what happened, who got sentenced and like brought to justice for that.
Yeah, it's dodgy, and
yeah.
we'll never know. There's things like, I've always said, you know, they make James Bond movies to make us think, oh well, this would never be real. But I bet there is like a team of people who assassinate people, and
Yeah.
when you
I feel like use that him as like an example. I think because he had previous burglaries, he got the minimum tariff, so he could have got up to over 5 years. He got 3.5 or 3,
Yeah.
and then you look at Ched Evans. That was it.
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
got 2.5 years for rape, and yet someone who didn't went into another person's house and had previous convictions of this, but didn't actually do anything and was sort of off the head. But then you've just been sentenced to. I think I'm getting tongue-tied. You know, like,
I know exactly
they've
what
got
you're
a
saying.
harsher sentence than
Yeah.
somebody who's raped somebody, and yet in America you get 99 years for that,
Yeah.
or something like that. And I think that is a bit extreme, because sometimes you hear about kids like robbing in America, convenience stores and stuff like that.
Convenience,
At 17 years old, and they're given 40 years in prison, and I'm like, I feel like that's a bit
Yeah.
harsh.
Rest of
A
your
bit
life.
harsh. You've lost your life
That's
and you're
it,
in
yeah.
prison. But then what's the thing here? Joint enterprise. Is it joint enterprise
So-
where sometimes like you're never given an end date and you end up being in prison?
No,
It's
that's
not joint enterprise.
So joint enterprise is me and you leave here.
Yeah.
You've got a knife in your bag. You see someone who you've got a problem with.
I
You
go
say to
stab
me,
them.
I'm going to go stab them. And I
Yeah.
say, I don't want to do that, and I walk away. Because I didn't actively try to stop that from happening, I'll go to prison as well.
No,
'Cause I
yeah, I
could've
think
stopped
you,
that from
you just
happening.
get charged with the same crime that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
getting
There's a
charged.
girl called Neelam who's a current serving prisoner. She comes out of prison and she comes to Leeds and she does sessions in schools. She got in a car, but she was affiliated to a gang in Birmingham. 4 or 5 of them got in a car, drove to a different area. One of them got out, stabbed and killed somebody, got back in the car, drove away. All 4 or 5 got the exact same sentence for murder. So she's currently
'Cause-
serving.
Yeah, I watched something. It was a couple of years ago on Netflix, but it was really good. And it showed at the end, like the family members of all these people who have members in prison. But it was the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
This kid had a car, and he thought he was going for a pizza, and then one of the guys had gone in, stabbed somebody, he died, and they all got done for joint for murder. What's the other one though? Where it's
Well, there's a guy who got killed near us. He got one single stab wound. There was a big fight between some of the lads at one end of Beast and the Asians in the middle of Beast, and there was like cricket bats, and I think this was the second or third sort of retaliation, and one stab wound, and I think 7 or 8 of them went to prison for murder. One of them got out of the country, he left,
right.
but all of them went to prison for murder. Because they were there and they knew that this was going to happen. Is it PP, Prolific Public Protection, PP?
I think it is,
PPO
but that's
or
not the
something
name.
Like that.
But you know, it's like it's indefinite,
Yeah.
and
So you go to prison and
but
you
I've heard
get
about
you
where
get
it's
a tariff.
like quite
so they'll
minimum
say-
crimes.
Yeah, yeah.
And they end up being there for like 15 odd years. Like at the beginning of lockdown, there was a guy whose son had committed a crime when he was 17 and he's been in prison for 12 years. And he was worried about him during lockdown and stuff like that. And they don't
Yeah.
have an end date.
So
and
what you
it's-
get is you get a sentence, and it's PP
gonna-
Summit,
gonna
PPO or
irritate
something
me.
like that.
It's not. Yeah, it's going to irritate me.
But
till
you get a tariff, so they'll say 15 years.
But we'll review it.
And then what happens
and-
is they say you need to complete this many courses. So once you've completed these courses, you can be released. You can be up for parole. So you go to your first prison, and they don't do any of the courses, but you have to be there for a year. And then you'll find out where you can do a course. So you get moved to that prison. So you might be there for over a year. You move to that prison, and then you get put on the waiting list for that course. So then eventually you get put on that course, and then you complete the course. So you might have lost 2.5 years just to complete one of however many courses.
Right.
And then you have to find out. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You have to be in the right prison to do the right course, but there's waiting lists to move, there's waiting lists for courses. So there's no guarantee that 15-year tariff means that you'll be released after 15 years. And
Yeah.
I know some people who've had less than 5 years and done over 10. But you don't have an end date. One of the saving
That is
graces
really
for me
shocking.
was I had a release date. I had earliest day of release on tag, and I had a 4.5 month before the end of my sentence was a date that I could be released on tag. or there was the 4.5 month full time. So I got a 40-month sentence, so it was 20 months or 15.5 months. So I had 2 dates. And I knew that this was going to be one of the 2 dates that I got out. And I made this checkered thing with all the numbers in, and it was a countdown. So every day I'd cross a day off, and I could physically and visually see this thing getting less and less and less. And that gave me a bit of hope.
Yeah.
If you have no end goal, if you have nothing to work towards,
Yeah.
how's that going to be for you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Really just despairing.
yeah. Well,
I mean, it must have been hard this year. Like, it's just mental, because I think he's got to this point of counting down and he's like, oh, I've only got 11 weeks left. Where it seems to just, I think it's this year. But, you know, even when I thought, like, sentenced 3 years, not even serving a year and is eligible for tag, and then sort of out and spent like 6-7 months off the head on spice sort of thing. But then all the groups, the library, everything sort of being shut, and it's COVID's made it just a lot worse. But
yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming in. It's really, really good to see you again.
You too.
Genuinely, good luck with everything you want to do in the future. Like I say,
Thank you.
I know that whatever you do, it's going to be brilliant. Genuinely, if there's anything we can do to help, like I say, if you come back to Leeds,
Yes, if I come back.
there's loads of stuff we can do. But yeah, it's always good to see you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.